Hi students, very good morning all. Welcome back to Sri Ramanuja Vidya Mandir. Today I would like to explain a new topic. Name is how do organisms reproduce? And this is the third topic of your NCERT syllabus. Previous we have completed the life process and control and coordination. Now we are going with the third topic, that is organisms reproduce. Actually students, in the first lesson, that is life process, right? So in that lesson, we have discussed importance of life process as well as and what is the different types of life process we are having in our body, right? Actually students, some basic functions performed by the each and every living creature is nothing but the life process. So to sustain in the nature, every living thing, whether it is an animal or a plant or a even small microorganism, need to perform certain functions. Those are nothing but the life process. Here, so on the board, we can see the nutrition and transportation, respiration and excretion, metabolism. Okay, so there are different types of basic process performed by the every living creature, like nutrition. So for the survival, we all must require the food, then only our body will get the energy, then only we could able to carry out our routine works. So transportation, whatever the food is taken by the animal, so it has to convert into small nutrients. That nutrient should be supplied to the different body cells, and that is going to taking place by the transportation. Next, respiration. Okay, so what do you mean by respiration students? So here, so getting energy from the food. Okay, see here, so simply by from the digestion from the nutrients we won't get the energy, right? So this food nutrients, okay, for example let us take the glucose, that has to be oxidized, then only it will give the energy. Okay, oxidation of the glucose molecule will gives us carbon dioxide as well as water. Okay, so along with these products we will also get the energy. That energy generally in the living system, it is stored in the form of ATP. ATP means students adenosine triphosphate. So these are the energy pockets which are stored in the every mitochondria of the cell. Okay, next, so other life process is movement. All the living things moves. So there are even the plants also shows some kind of the movements. Already in the previous class we have discussed about the phototropism, geotropism and hydrotropism and the chemotropism. So they'll show the stimulus, so to relevant to the light, water and availability of the gravity and all. Okay, so even as you all know that even the microorganisms also shows the movement just to get the energy, just to get the food material. Okay, so we will also move from one place to other place. It is also one of the life process generally carried out by the living creatures. And the sensitivity, detecting the changes in the surroundings. Okay, so there are many changes will be taking place in the surroundings, like change in the temperature, change in the humidity and so there are so many factors influence the life of living creatures. So if the temperatures are high, so relevant to that our body shows the concerned response. Okay, if the temperature is low, so we used to shiver. Okay, simply all these are the different types of life process performed by the every living creature in order to adjust with the external atmosphere or external environment. See, growth, all the living things grows. Okay, growth is the fundamental life process, okay, obeyed by the every living creature. So one difference is there. In the plants, growth is continuous process, whereas in the animals, so growth is up to certain age. Okay, so the next excretion, getting rid of the waste. See, so after the metabolic activities, every cell releases some waste materials, toxic materials. So all these materials should leave the body. Okay, so they should not be present in our body. So if they'll present in our body, what will happen? Our this waste materials will become toxic. They may cause damage or harm to the our cells. So to avoid that a great problem or a damage, so our body wants to eliminate or remove the waste materials time to time. So that whole process is nothing but the excretion. Next, nutrition, already we discussed. So in this way, all these life process are very important for the life to survive. And so, and one more important life process is there, that is reproduction. So that is, students, reproduction. Okay, the life process, it is reproduction is somewhat different from the other life process. Like, so what are the other? Nutrition, transportation, population, excretion, all these activities or all these life process carried out by the living creature just to maintain life. Understand? So just to survive. But when come to the case of reproduction, so it is mainly useful for the organism to continue its race or for the perpetuation of the race. Okay, so we came from our parents from the grandparents. So here the generation is continuing. So process, students, by the great life process, that is reproduction. Okay, so the continuation of the generations from one generation to the other generation is that is available by the process known as reproduction. And reproduction means making more living things of the same type. So here the dog is there. Dog is going to give dog only, a baby dog only. So it won't give cat, right? So reproduction means making more living things of the same type. So that means continuation of the generations. So this is about the introduction of the life process, students. And here, one of the most important aspect of the living thing is their ability to produce their own kind. So what is the important feature of the every living creature is saying ability of produce new individual. So that is the special characteristic feature possessed by the every living creature. Now let us go for the definition of the reproduction. See, this survival of the species is accomplished with production of new individuals by the old before the old die, called reproduction. Once again I am repeating the definition, students. The survival of the species is accomplished with the production of new individual by the old before the old dies, called reproduction. So here parent cell or parent is going to give rise to the a new individual in the lifespan of the parent. So this is the reproduction. Next. Right. So let us see the reproduction is a fundamental feature of all known life. Each individual organisms exist as a result of reproduction. So, the existing of the living thing is simply possible by a great process, that is reproduction. So, actually reproduction is of two types, students. Okay, there are two forms of reproduction. Okay, what are those, students? Sexual and sexual reproduction, and the second type is asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Okay, students, right? And in the sexual reproduction, an organism can reproduce without the involvement of the other organism. See here, for the sexual reproduction, here it requires the two organisms, male and the female organisms, whereas in the case of asexual reproduction, only one parent is there. That parent cell is going to gives a new individual or a new progeny. That is the only difference between the sexual and asexual. So let us discuss about the asexual and sexual reproduction in the next class. So let us concentrate on the characteristics of the reproduction. Okay, so and see, students, asexual reproduction involves only one parent producing offsprings identical to the parent. New individual can be called as progeny or offsprings or daughter cells or new individual. So these are the somewhat technical scientific terms we can use in the future classes. Progeny means a new individual. Offspring also new individual only. So asexual reproduction involves only one parent. So it produces, so here for example, this is the parent cell, means so if it is the parent, so we'll get a new progeny of the same type, so exactly identical to the parent. So in the case of sexual reproduction, it involves the union of two different cells or two of opposite sex here. So in the case of sexual reproduction, what will happen? See that in the case of sexual reproduction, so there are two different cells. So one may be male or other may be female. So male or female, right? So two different organisms will fuse together to form a new cell, that is zygote. Okay, so and this cell is going to divide, then it gives a complete organism at last. So I'll explain all this in detailed way. So just I'm giving just idea. Like now let us discuss about the characteristics of the reproduction. So for what we all discussed, students, definition we discussed, importance of reproduction we discussed, different types of reproduction also we discussed. Now we are going to explain about the characteristics of the reproduction. Very, very important, students. Reproduction maintain the continuity of the life, just now I said. So reproduction is a very, very important life process carried out by every living creature in order to continue its race or its generations. Okay, so by the reproduction of the life, life perpetuates itself. Each new organism is coming from the fragment of protoplasm derived from the one parent or from the fragment derived from the two parents, that is from the male or female. See, I'll explain this in a detailed way. So let us see, a cell is there and this cell may have the nucleus and different cell organelles within this. Okay, this cell is covered by the cell membrane. Okay, this cell is going to give the other cell simply from the, see, so a fragment formed from the protoplasm derived from the one parent or from the two parent. See here, and a jelly-like substance which is present in the cell is known as cytoplasm. That you all know that, students. And so cytoplasm with the nucleus is known as protoplasm. So in the nucleus, as you all know, that every living cell consists of the genetic material. That genetic material may be DNA or RNA. That depends upon the nature of the organism. DNA or and RNA. Okay, so the protoplasmic materials will divide, may gives rise to the daughter cells. So if it is of the one parent, it is asexual. If it is of the two parents, it is known as sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. Understand, students? So about each and everything I'll explain in very, very detailed way. No need to worry, as it is the topic. So you just try. Yeah, definitely I will give a very, very clear clarifications. So for each and every term and each and every concept. And see, so by the reproduction of the life, life perpetuates itself. Each new organism develops from the fragment of the protoplasm derived from the one parent or from the fragment derived from the two parent. There may be male or female. So let us see the second characteristic feature of the reproduction. Reproduction is specific. Reproduction is specific. So human will give rise to the human child, and dog will give the dog, cat will give rise to the, will reproduce the cat only. So a dog can't reproduce cat, a human can't reproduce other animal. So it is completely specific. Reproduction process is very, very unique and specific. And second important point is that, third important point is that reproduction is cellular. So it is, that is the reason cell is known as structural and the functional unit of the life. So here, so cell is consists of everything. Cell is consists of everything. It has to perform all things. Understand? So as cell, the nucleus in its body, in its body, and cell divides two daughter cells. Again, cell is going to divide two more daughter cells in this way. So each and every living creature starts with a single cell. If it is an elephant or a microorganism, so they should start with the single cell only. That single cell is nothing but the zygote, students. Okay, now see here, what is the last point? Reproduction is development. So there should be a growth or a development from its start. Every life starts with a single cell. It develops into a multicellular organism at last. So depending upon the cells, organisms are divided into two types, unicellular and the multicellular. So if cell is going to give rise to single cell, if this is the final means, so it will be the unicellular organism. So if not means, so cell divides and divides repeatedly means at last we'll get a multicellular organism, organism with so many cells, multicellular organisms. Okay, these are the different characteristic features of reproduction. So students, and let us discuss all this. And so reproduction maintains the continuity of the life, that is the first point. And Second characteristic feature is reproduction is specific, reproduction is cellular, and the reproduction is developmental. I hope you all understood the different characteristic features of the reproduction, right? And one more important point, gene. What do you mean by gene and DNA? So here students, right? So the functional fragment of the DNA is nothing but the gene. See students, this cell in the nucleus, it is having the chromatin material. These small thread-like structures are used to present in the nucleus. So that is nothing but the genetic material, students. Genetic material means it is having the characteristics of inheritance. So it is going to transfer from the parent to the daughter cells. So that is the reason it has the property of inheritance. And so see, a functional fragment of DNA is nothing but the gene. So this gene or this fragment of DNA is going to able to give a particular characteristic feature of the living creature. For example, insulin is one of the hormone, right? So if the information concerned to the insulin synthesis is stored in the particular that fragment, okay, I'll explain you in very clear way in the future classes, right? So just I'm giving a introduction to this concept. And now DNA means, as you all know that, so deoxy, D for deoxy, R for ribose, and N for nucleic acids. Okay, so DNA means deoxyribose nucleic acid. And other genetic material also we have, that is RNA, ribose nucleic acid. Mostly viruses used to have this type RNA as their genetic materials. Understand? So this is the about gene and DNA. And do the organisms create exact copies of themselves? Yes, organisms will give rise to the exact copies of themselves. Let us see. Actually, every single life starts with a basic unit of the cell. So the cell contains, as you all know, that nucleus, and which carries the genetic material. It may be or DNA or RNA. There are some cells which may have both DNA and RNA. So we can say that the fundamental process of reproduction is DNA replication. Okay, so replication. Here DNA is going to get duplicated into other DNA. Conversion or coming of DNA from the DNA is known as, the process is known as replication. So when a reproduce a cell commences division, so it primarily starts to make a replica of its DNA. Actually students, as you all know that DNA is double helical structure. DNA is having the double helical structure. I'll show the see here the DNA is having the double helical structure. So this type of structural framing is nothing but the double helical structure of DNA. And so each strand will get divides, and to the this each strand will act as a parental strand, and to this, so it is going to give the opportunity to develop a new DNA strand. So that is nothing but the replication, right? So since DNA can't build up an organism all by itself, so the cell also divides into two. We get a cell with a new DNA. According to the DNA codes, proteins are made in the new cells. Accordingly, the cell evolves a new individual which looks similar to the original cell. So these cells might look similar in their body designs and the physiology, but they are not identical. See students, let us I'll explain. So if this is the parent cell, at the center it is having the nucleus. in the nucleus it is having the genetic material. So, and it is the whole cell is filled with the cytoplasm, right? So this is the cell, students. So parent cell, and inside it is having the cytoplasm, okay, and at the center it is having the nucleus, right? And in the nucleus it is having the genetic material, right? Genetic material. So this genetic material may be DNA and RNA. As you all know that DNA is deoxyribose nucleic acid, ribose nucleic acid. So here what will happen, students? First, actually, let us talk about the genetic material. So as it is double helical in structure, so two strands are there. So this is the one strand, and it is also having the other strand, double helical structure. So let us see first these two. Actually, first process is replication, students. In the replication, what will happen? No, actually, to the, and first these are going to divide first. Okay, so this is one strand, this is second strand, and to this, so it is going to synthesize a new daughter DNA, and here also, and a new daughter DNA will be. So synthesis of DNA from the DNA. So parent DNA is going to give the opportunity to synthesize the daughter DNA, right? So this process is known as replication. Okay, replication. Again this cells. So here the first, before the formation of a new genetic material divide, okay, divide, that is known as karyokinesis. Division of nuclear material is karyokinesis. So now what happens, students? Here with this genetic material is divided, right? So genetic material is divided, and it only genetic material divides means it will give the new cell. No, so it won't sufficient. This is just half. Okay, to complete this process full, what will happen? This cell, whole cell has to divide. So this cell also divides. This is called cell division or a cytoplasmic division. Okay, first karyokinesis, then there should be a division of cytoplasm, then only we'll get a new individual cell. Okay, now we'll get, this is the parent cell, it is giving the two daughter cells with their own DNAs. Okay, understand, students? Okay, right. And so next important point, at the time of formation of gametes, meiosis occurs. Okay, eventually this creates DNA different from the parent cell due to the crossing over and the recombination. A change in the formation of DNA implies it's the initiation of the variation. So variations might be drastic or slow. This variation during the reproduction is an inbuilt tendency, and it lays a pathway for the evolution. And in an asexual reproducing organisms, variation is limited, whereas organisms create exact copies of themselves. So see, a clone, but chance of variations are very high in the sexual reproduction. So variations, differences, so the chance of variations are very low in the case of asexual. The reason is that here the only one parent is there. No, one parent is going to give rise to new daughter cell. So there is no chance of fusion of different genetic materials, right? So we can't expect much variations in the coming individual in the case of asexual. But in the case of sexual, so here the fusion of two gametes from the two different individuals, from the male and the female bodies, right? So when the two things are fused together, and there are the fusing of two different genetic materials, so there would be a chance of variations. A new characteristics we can see in the coming individual. So we can observe there are some children's, will be having the characteristic feature of both the parent, both the mother as well as the mother. Some of the children may have their characteristic features of their grandparents. So because of the heredity, genetic material is going to carry it from the generation to generation, grandparent to the parent, parent to the children. Understand? Okay, so this is the introduction, students. I hope you all understood the class. So no need to worry, I'll explain in a very simple way. Okay, thank you all, thank you so much.